Hello, today I'm going to talk about collaborative grouping. And there are different ways that you would do this. The ways I identify each group is that the students would be given different colored cups at their desks. There could be blue, red, yellow, or any other color you would want to use. And these would be put on each group of desks. Now I would have each group probably about 4 or 5 desks, and this is how the students would go into their groups, because it's easier to have students in bigger groups, like 4 to 5, than just 2. So after these are placed on each desk, the students would know what color, so each color is going to be a group. And then the students in the class, I would have on my board different colors. The blue paper is for the blue group, the yellow paper is for the yellow group, and I would have other colors. But for right now, I'm just showing you an example of what I would do in my class. So I have today's groups on my board. And what I would do is each student in the class would be assigned a class number for the entire year so students know what number they are. And what I would do is I would have different students' numbers and I would display them on my board. So I would say, okay, in our blue group, we would have student 1, 3, and maybe 4 or 5. So the students would know, okay, I'm going into the blue group today, or I'm going into the yellow group. This would help students be organized and know where they're going so they're not lost. Or instead of using the numbers, you could have pictures of the students. At the beginning of the year, you could have a picture, a small little picture that just shows their face, and I would display each one on the construction paper so the students would know what group they're going in. And probably about 4 or 5 would be put on each one, since that's a good number to use for your groups. Another thing that's important is to know what types of students I put in each group. What I would do is I would have the students complete a survey at the beginning of the year so they know their learning styles or their interests. It'll be asked different questions about what they like doing or what they don't like doing, and also the type of roles they like to do in their groups, if they want to be a leader, a reporter, or just an observer. With these, I would put students based on different interests or the same interest. If students are more visual learners, they could all be in the same group. Or if they like hands-on activities, they could be in a group. And these surveys would be important to not have students with all the same levels, so these would be different types of groups. When the students know each group, I would show them like I showed on my board. I could do especially for the students when they have different roles. What I would do is have students take turns becoming leader roles or different, maybe a reporter, observer, or present to the class. I would have the students take turns doing these things so that everyone gets a chance and an opportunity, because some students might not like to be the leader and some might like to do that. This might work better for younger grades as well. And the older grades, they might be able to establish who are leaders by completing the learning surveys at the beginning of the year. It's also important in your groups for your students to work together and know how to cooperate in a group. So once the students are placed in the groups and go to the right color at their tables with these cups, I would also have supplies the students would need for the day. Things such as maybe crayons, scissors, or even index cards. Another important thing I would have is students would each get maybe a camera or an iPad if they're allowed to use them at the school. With this, the students can take pictures of them working together or even record what they're doing. So later, they can reflect on the group and decide what they need to improve on or what worked throughout the day. And this also will help me see if the students had any conflicts and how they work through them. Also, with their index cards, they'll record what happened in their group and also record if they had any conflicts and show to me how they resolved them. This is important because it allows me to see maybe if I need to change my groups for next time or how well the students work together. Also, what I would do is with the camera, I would upload the videos to my computer so they can view them, and I can view them if I need to grade them working on an assignment. And this can work for if they're doing, maybe they might have an assignment where they're supposed to make a poster of a vocabulary word we're learning for the day. With this, they can take pictures so they can go back and see what they did for that day and also how they presented it. They can even do a video of them presenting it for each group. Also, maybe if they're doing something like a science experiment, each student would have different assignments they'd have to do, and also recording would be helpful. During each group, when they're working on an assignment, I would come around, and a good way I control the groups to see if students are being too loud or if they're not on task, I will go by walk through the groups and observe what they're doing. If I see that the students aren't off task, they're getting too loud, I'm going to put one of these stop signs on their table. And with this stop sign, what they need to do is stop what they're doing if there's a conflict, if they're too loud or if they're off task. And what they need to do is have a minute of reflection. They need to decide what they need to do to improve or what the conflict is and think about what they're doing. Once it's at their table, they have to think as a team. What would be more effective? How can our team work better? And once the group has resolved their conflict, or once they're not noisy anymore and they decide they need to be on task and complete their assignment, then one of the students would come and give this back to me, and I will talk to the group and see if they resolved or if they decided to be on task. They might be doing a social studies assignment where each student has to read a section of the book and they have to write a short story or even a paper. It is important that each student knows what their roles are and how to work together. So I feel like this would be important for the students to understand what they're doing and to get on task. Because sometimes in groups it's hard to monitor everything they're doing at one time. So it's important to understand, for the students to understand how to work together in a group. Also for the groups, having them in a good location in the room so they're not all over the place. Like I said before, I have the desks would be in squares all put together. And this will probably be throughout the whole year that the students will be doing this. Because they will be having different times students will be doing different group work or even working on a story together. So I feel like a lot of these methods would be helpful for any standard or any activity that they're doing. Even using the colored cups. I feel like these are useful because the students know where they're going and know what group they're in. You can even use any other object you want, which is important because the students need to know where they're going. And another thing, at the end, when the students are done doing their group assignment, at the end, probably about the last 10 minutes, I'll have they can complete a survey or some type of worksheet where they will talk about what their assignment was. They might be doing something like language arts activity, working on a short story, or even a math activity where they have to try to put fractions together and solve problems together as a group and talk as a class as to what we discovered. This will allow me to see what the students had to do, what they feel worked best, and what didn't work best. And they can even all sign the contract saying this is what happened. For the younger grades, I could do something different. The videos might work, or they could all talk together and see what they had to do. Because there's going to be different activities that might not require every group to be doing a lot of hands-on activities, or they might just be presenting to the class. It's important to understand your students and work with them so their groups will be successful. Thank you for watching my video, and I hope these ideas would be helpful to you in your classroom because they will work for me. Thank you.